This is the story of the grain of sand that makes the pearl in the oyster.
On September 28, 2025, Loren Adams celebrates his 80th birthday. This marks a 50-year milestone in his long history as a renowned artist. During these years, he painted the Pacific Ocean, from the fjords of British Columbia to the shores of Cabo San Lucas. In 1982, he added a new genre of classic surrealism. According to Salvador Dali's 50 Secrets of Magic Craftsmanship, the object is to make a lion jump out of the goldfish's mouth, or the train coming out of a fireplace, per Rene Magritte. These two artists, along with Hudson River School, have influenced Loren Adams primarily in his career.
Good one, honey.
From his days of childhood, Loren Adams loved to paint. These early works are titled Planet X and the Bumblebee, created at age 5 in kindergarten, and My Friend and Me Down by the Sea at age 9. This work was included in the major retrospective exhibition at the R.W. Norton Museum. The following segment is in a Q&A interview format with Loren Adams. The first question is, Loren, tell us about your career as a young artist with the traveling art shows.
Yes, well, actually, as a hillbilly from South Indiana, I joined a group of traveling gypsy artists, and we did the grand opening celebrations at Ernest Hahn shopping centers across America, and circled the wagons in the middle of the night with the accordions, guitars. It was a blast and a great lifestyle.
Tell me, Loren, how did you end up in Vancouver, British Columbia?
We did all of the grand openings at Ernest Hahn shopping centers across America. And then we did Calgary Stampede, and then Pacific National Exhibition. And when I went for a walk at Stanley Park, I fell in love and stayed.
So what was it like living in Vancouver?
I have to think about that. Vancouver is my city. Well, yes, after going to Pacific National Exhibition and selling out my entire exhibit to the president of Trizac Equities, made my world change almost overnight. My studio was in the penthouse of the brand new Board of Trade Tower in Vancouver. When you got off the elevator, that was the Loren Adams Gallery. My next door neighbor was Gordon Shrum, a local politician, and from there, everything kind of turned into my wildest dreams come true. They contacted all of my former collectors and bought everything they could find. And then, as I was with them for almost 2.5 years, they bought everything I produced, gave me 25% when I delivered it, and another 25% when it sold. The arrangement eventually ended up in getting the attention of Richard Norton III, who started collecting my work, which led to the R.W. Norton Art Gallery, the retrospective that put me on the map internationally. I had the second largest attendance in the history of the museum, second only to Auguste Rodin, and that was in Shreveport, Louisiana. That began a whole lot of things that led to keeping most of the originals after that experience.
Tell us more about your major retrospective at the R.W. Norton Museum.
Yes, the show was in January 21st through March 4th in 1979. I was at the time the youngest living American artist to have a major show retrospective at a major museum in the United States. It was well attended, and I was in total flabbergasted mode the entire time of the event. I did attend the opening. There were 101 pieces in the exhibition, and the entire works of Beethoven played in the background, and I rather felt like a conductor during the entire event. The R.W. Norton family bought 5 pieces for their personal collection and 2 original masterpieces for the permanent collection of the R.W. Norton Art Gallery.
I was impressed to hear that the museum covered all costs for the retrospective exhibition, that they borrowed the paintings from the collectors that owned them, and they paid for crating and shipping and insurance, essentially all costs incurred. The question that everyone wants to ask is, how is it that you're able to make the surface of the water look so real when you paint it?
Studying the surface of water and making a graph of the surface of the water is something I've been doing for years now. In fact, I started the Academy of Ocean Art Graphy in Vancouver as part of the Creek House development of False Creek. We were there for 5 years, and my students continued long after I left in 1981.
Okay, another question on technique. How do you get the light to look as if it's moving across the water? You're famous for your translucent waves, and I've seen so many people attempt this and the waves just look stiff and nothing moves. How do you do that?
Okay, the best way to describe this is the surface of water is like a myriad of infinite puddles melting into each other and always in motion. And they are following the contours of the wave. By deliberately shaping the reflections of the light in these puddles in reference to both the light source and the painting, relative perspective to the horizon, it literally causes the sensation of motion.
So you paint it where it was, where it is, and where it's going to be. And that's why when I walk by, it looks like it's moving.
Exactly. That means it's a success. By studying the anatomy or the structure of a wave, particularly a moving wave, and specifically in reference to the vanishing points, I take the time to build it with a sequence of these infinity loops. You know, like in figure eights laid on their side, and utilizing them to structure the entire wave, each wave in the picture as necessary.
So in essence, you're creating a path of light as it moves across the water.
Yes, and it's intensified at the horizon where the light source starts reflecting. That's at its brightest. And then it disperses into smaller and smaller spots as it fans out and comes towards the viewer. It also diminishes in chroma strength, so that's another way to create the illusion of depth of field.
Of the many places you've lived, where do you see as home on the planet? We know, you've told us how the natural beauty of Vancouver captured your attention and kept you there for many years. Tell us about the other places that you love.
Well, I would have to say Carmel by the Sea, where I met and married my darling wife, Patty, and I spent quite a bit of time in Texas, although I was not very fond of it.
You love the people, I hear.
I did love the people. There are social rites of passage in Canada, at least in the English-speaking community, and I literally had active art relations in all of the provinces. I have artworks in all of the provinces, but I wasn't too fond of the real icy cold part.
Another aside, just thinking, I remember you telling me that you had a maquette of your stadium, the Crystal Cave, that toured throughout Canada, the museums throughout Canada.
That's right. The original maquette was my own new art form and recognized as such. And the MOC had toured 11 major museums throughout Canada for a period of almost 2 years. And it really called attention to the three-dimensionality of the new work I started doing.
Now back to your favorite places on the planet. What brought you to Maui, the island of Maui in Hawaii, where you live now?
After my museum show, I was a popular artist, so we had our own gallery in Carmel by the Sea until Jimmy Killett of Lahaina Galleries decided to purchase all of my available inventory, and so then we moved to Maui in 1987, and we've been here ever since.
You mentioned before that you've kept many of your originals in your own private collection. How many works of art are we talking about?
Since Patty and I moved to Maui in 1987, we have kept many of our favorites, and we're talking about 134 pieces in the permanent collection as of this date. 101 of them have been formally appraised by a senior member of the International Society of Appraisers for almost $8 million. And our collection is in hopes of building our own museum, the Loren Adams Museum.
So who are the people who've been lucky enough to buy originals?
Well, they're few and far between because genuine sincerity matters more than money, and having a heart connection with people who collect is really important because we're building collections. It's important that whoever buys one or two, which is possible, that they make that work available for important exhibitions. And, you know, we're not really selling reproduction rights to any of those images. I retain those always. And under those conditions, if people are serious, they can talk us out of one, but they gotta want them more than we do.
I understand that many people have collected your limited editions over the years, and that each art piece has original handwork. Can you tell us why you use original handwork on your art prints?
Well, the idea of limited editions means that if you say you're doing an edition of 100, then you stick to that. And we take the idea of a limited edition very seriously. Most of them are maybe 100 or in some cases 150. Throughout most of the last 20th century, anything 300 or less is collectible, anything 100 or less is scarce, and anything on the market that's 50 or less is rare. And we strive to keep in those categories. And by having the artist personally touch and be a part of every part of the print manufacture, it escalates the value of that print because the artist touched it personally.
I've also heard you say that original handwork enhances the beauty as well as the collectability, and I've noticed that that's very true. I understand that 58 years ago you quit your day job after your first museum show.
Yes, that's a true story. Hello, hi, this is Loren Adams. And tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about my ancient history. 58 years ago, at the Roseville Center Museum in Roseville, California, USA, in June of 1967, was my first museum exhibition. Needless to say, I enjoyed this attention so much that I did not really get too excited about going back to nursing duty. So I resigned. Remember, the very next day, I quit my day job. That was 58 years ago.
Of all the awards and accolades that have come your way over these past 58 years, which one has the most personal meaning to you?
Aloha, this is Loren Adams, and I want to share one of the most important historical events in my life. And this was doing the album cover for Dean McNichol's Worlds Are on the Way. Dean McNichols played the theater pipe organ on the Haven of Rest broadcast hour every night on National Public Radio for 27 years. He was as famous as Babe Ruth. I am still greatly humbled by the fact that I was chosen for such a wonderful work to help so many people. One of the many reasons why I've always enjoyed thinking of myself as God's artist. The fact is, I enjoy sharing the light that I have seen. Thank you, God. The best part of the story is that I am the goose that lays the golden eggs, and I have a wonderful life. You can hear the multi-track at the same time. Wonderful place, isn't it?